Welcome to the latest edition of the Jungle Juice podcast. I'm Sam Gormley. He's Mick Nelson. Mick, we are officially now Kajana Carter, Cedric Benson, Jeremy Hill, Rudy Johnson, Travion Williams, Stanley Wilson, and your favorite Bengal of all time, Mark Walton, days away from kickoff against the Patriots.
I love
Bengals
Mark
legend
Walton.
Mark Walton. I think he's in jail now.
I was going to say, for the short amount of time he was on the team, he has to be top 5 in arrests.
Yes.
Right?
And he's
Chris
really
Henry, Odell Thurman, Ray Maluga, and then probably Mark Walton.
Speaking of Ray Maluga, too, ruler of the jungle on Saturday for the preseason game. I didn't have that in my notes, so we can just drop that in there. Yes, if you care, he's going to be the ruler of the jungle there. So does that mean in 10 years, Mark Walton will be the ruler of the jungle at a preseason game?
Maybe.
That would be the day. I'd love to see the reaction from Mark Walton and Odell Thurman getting up there and having their moment of the Bengals failure wall or something, of getting their moment of most arrests. The wall of shame, yes. Appreciate you for tuning in to today's episode of the podcast here on this Wednesday evening. Football is happening this week. They're actually going to play a real game as the Bengals will take on the Buccaneers on Saturday at Paycor Stadium. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the show, just giving really our expectations or what we're looking for necessarily in the game because, well, I mean, it's football, and I think that's the best part about it is it's something. You're going to see some of the starters play. How much? We really have no idea. Zach Taylor hasn't really shared any of that. But there's a lot of news to get to as well to come through in this week. Some fisticuffs happened today at practice. We're going to talk about that. Bengals made some news. The injury bug has started to kind of inch its way in. We'll discuss a little bit of that as well. But we invite you to follow us on our social media channels. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also on your favorite podcasting platform. Make sure to give us a follow there and a 5-star rating so other people can find our show that way. But Mick, Ja'Marr Chase is how we're contractually obligated to begin this show. And yet again, Ja'Marr Chase is now 11 for 11. He's at practice, but he's wearing a hat. And I just kind of ask you, we talked a little bit about this last week. Is it a story for you yet or a cause for concern?
No. Just like my answer was last week, it's still not a cause for concern. I mean, I think we all would agree in saying we would like to have him out there. There's a new offensive coordinator. Joe Burrow was injured for pretty much the second half of last season. So just kind of, getting some reps in and, and not saying any rapport's gone away, but just, building, I guess, short-term rapport with Ja'Marr Chase would be nice with Burrow. But no, I mean, there's no cause for concern. I do think the front office should just, I don't know, get the thing done. It'd be nice if they did. He wants a new contract. Jay Jettis has already been paid. At least he's shown up in the building and is around his teammates. But I just hopefully they get it done. But there's no reason for concern. If he wasn't showing up, I would be maybe a little more concerned, but still wouldn't be too concerned either.
How many shows, let's just say, how many weeks in advance is where him not practicing concerns you?
I give it about 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. So pretty much before that last preseason game against the Colts, you want to start seeing him start to ramp up. That makes sense. I'm now starting to get last week I was not worried at all. And I'm not sure worried is the right word for me to use. I'm not even sure it's concerned, but I'm more just like, okay, it's there. And it's starting to grow just a little bit in that. I'm not even sure the word to use to describe it. It's kind of growing. And I'm not really sure how to look at it. A couple of other news headlines. I don't really know that there's anything else really to discuss when it comes to Ja'Marr Chase. Trent Brown was removed from the, I forget what they call it, the PUP or the non-football injury list and he has been back at practice. I know on Monday or Sunday night, I think is when they had their practice. He was working on the rehab field, and now today he was back at practice going through his normal stuff. Some stuff happened at practice that we'll talk about a little bit later on. Frank, appreciate you for joining us. But the big news from late last week was Bengals defensive end Cam Sample left practice with an injury. He was carted off the field. That was a day where it was really, really hot, where multiple players were carted off, mostly due to heat issues. But it came out yesterday or day before last, earlier this week, that Cam Sample is out for the season with a torn Achilles tendon. I know, Mick, you had Cam Sample kind of in a roster battle of sort when we had our 53-man roster preview show a couple of weeks ago. But I still think I don't think it's necessarily a massive loss, but I definitely think it is a loss that is maybe undervalued by some fans.
Yeah, I guess it is to a certain extent. Now, I do think, I know that Sample outsnapped Joseph Osai, but I thought just based off the grading, the pass rush win rate, that Osai was the better pass rusher given his limited sample size. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise from my perspective here. I think that this is going to give Osai some more reps, and I think he's a better pass rusher. So, I mean, that's not a terrible thing, I guess. I guess that pretty much solidifies Cedric Johnson's roster spot on the team on the 53-man, which I don't know. I'm excited to see if he gets some reps. I think they try to rotate those guys in and out as much as they can. So I think he'll get some reps, and then Miles Murphy's going to begin. I mean, he's going to have more snaps than Cam Sample anyways. I think we all projected, but I think that heightens his role a little bit.
The one thing with Cam Sample that stands out the most is run defense. That's where he has excelled the most. He's progressively gotten better every single year in his PFF gradings. In every single year in PFF, but his run defense has stayed relatively the same when it comes to this. Biggest thing for him, though, is tackling. He is a great tackler. His tackle grade of 82.2. Last year, he had a missed tackle percentage, which is, throwing all of your attempted tackles into a pot. He only missed 3.7%. That's an elite number.
Really good.
That was the highest on the team out of anybody that played any relatively number of snaps. There were a couple of guys like DJ Ivey, but DJ Ivey only had X amount of tackles, whereas, Cam Sample played over 300 snaps last year. So that is something at least. You mentioned Joseph Osai, and you also mentioned Cedric Johnson. Now, the one thing with Cedric Johnson, and this was kind of a red flag and probably part of the reason why he was a 6th-round pick out of Ole Miss, was he missed 22.5% of his tackles last year at Ole Miss. And for an edge rusher, that's not a number that necessarily makes you feel too great, especially when you're replacing 3.7% with 22.5%.
Yeah, it's not great. No, I don't think I don't think Cedric Johnson will be eating into Cam Sample's snaps to a higher degree than Joseph Osai. Now, I don't have the missed tackle rating on Osai. Did you?
I did not pull that. I can look it up while you're talking.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if I would imagine Osai's is probably a little worse, but he's kind of making up for that in the pass rush, which is I don't know. I think that's what you look for more in your edge defenders than you do with run defense or run stoppage rate. So yeah, I think that Osai is going to get more snaps. And yeah, I guess that solves a roster battle dilemma between Cedric Johnson, Joseph Osai, and Cam Sample now.
25% missed tackle percentage for Joseph Osai last year. But, Cam Sample played double the amount of snaps that Joseph Osai did for the most part last year. So that can be a little bit misleading because just number of snaps. But at the same time, if you're saying that your number was way lower playing a lot of snaps, that can at least make you feel maybe a little bit better or worry you maybe a little bit about losing a guy like Cam Sample. The defense also had another injury late last week. McKinnley Jackson left practice with a lower leg injury. I know he talked to Kelsey Conway of the Cincinnati Enquirer earlier today, and he said he's day-to-day, which I don't know about you, Mick, but when I read that, I was just like, whew, thank goodness, because that is edge. They are, I don't want to say they're deep at edge.
They're deeper than they are at D-tackle.
Correct, because D-tackle, they can't afford to lose anybody at D-tackle. They can't really, I mean, if we're being honest, they can't really even afford to lose Jay Tufele at defensive tackle because they just got no depth at that position at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of me kind of wonders if they're going to be kind of scouring this, the training camp cuts to see if they could bring another guy in. Or
like a Jay Tufele.
Yeah, like a Tufele.
So luckily that news with McKinnley Jackson is he is day-to-day. And to me, that says maybe you see him on Saturday, but more than likely you probably won't. Riley says they signed a couple of defensive tackles. We could just dump right into that as well right now. The Bengals did make some moves today. They signed defensive end Andre Carter. He was an undrafted free agent. No, another Andre Carter. I thought the same thing.
Oh, darn.
I thought the same thing. This is an undrafted free agent out of Indiana. Okay. He started the year with Jacksonville. Now, here's something that you are going to like, Mick. Last year, his run defense grade at Indiana. Big 10, a lot of running, 88.6 by PFF. So that'll get it done. They also signed defensive tackle Joshua Pryor. He played for the Commanders last season. Mick, Joshua Pryor, you know where he went to college?
No.
How about Division II Bowie State?
Really?
Can you tell me what state Bowie State is in?
I'm going to go with Minnesota.
You're kind of close. The right letter. Maryland.
Maryland. Okay.
We were talking.
Shit. Yeah, that makes sense if he was with the Commanders.
Yes, I guess that does. I didn't even put two and two together there. But I love, and we were talking about this before the show, that I consider myself pretty well-versed in all levels of colleges, at least not necessarily knowing a lot about them, but to at least say, I've heard of them. Yes, I've heard of them. Bowie State, no.
Not one. Not one of those.
I have not heard of them before. They're a D2 school in Maryland, so he's a defensive tackle. He played like 7 snaps last year for the Commanders. So technically he does have some experience, but not a ton. But maybe the biggest surprise as far as roster moves earlier today was the Bengals release Austin McNamara, who was the punter out of Texas Tech, who we've talked a lot about on this show, of somebody that we both thought was going to make the roster, and he's cut. Now, if you remember, I guess it's in the last 10 days, the Bengals signed Ryan Reckow, who is the punter from BYU. Now, Reckow was signed by the Chiefs earlier. So I kind of have 2 questions with this. The first one is was Reckow the guy the Bengals wanted all along, and the Chiefs just jumped in and snagged him first? And now that they have Reckow, they just said, okay, McNamara, we don't need you. Or, and I know some of the reports have said this as well, that McNamara was really struggling in camp. Was that the aspect? And I'm just really interesting, though, because this punter battle has gone from 2 to 3 to 2 really, really quick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a good answer for that. Probably more the latter. Right? Hearing that, I know you mentioned before the show that Austin McNamara had a couple of Shanks punts, which, I think that for him to win this battle over Robbins, he needed to clearly be the better punter than Robbins. They have more roster control for Brad Robbins than they do McNamara or Ryan Reckow. So, yeah, I think that they needed, one of those two needed to have maybe not a flawless preseason, but a really, really, really good training camp in preseason. So, I don't know. I don't know much to think about it. I know that you and I are 0 for 1, I guess, on roster spots now.
Well, I guess technically 0 for 2 because we both predicted Cam Sample to make the team.
We did. But that's like a mulligan, though.
Okay, okay, good. We're going to count that as a mulligan. I'm fine with that. I am fine with that.
I mean, either way, we both lost that one anyways, so I guess it doesn't matter.
LaShonda says, can we have Drew Chrisman back?
No.
Sadly, Drew Chrisman's never going to come back because of what happened in the AFC Championship game. I don't know. I think he's still door dashing on his bike. I think that was a thing that he was doing. They also released wide receiver Trey Mosley. I couldn't tell you anything about that, but it's got to suck, though, to be a guy like Trey Mosley. He doesn't even get the opportunity to play in a preseason game and he gets released. You know, like that's got to stink like 3 or 4 days before you were potentially. Now, obviously, if he's getting released, he probably wasn't going to get a lot of snaps, but you never know. Like 2 or 3 snaps in the game, he might have gotten the opportunity. So that's kind of stinks a little bit with that. As far as other signing news, and we talked about punters, so we can go to kickers. And we're not talking about this person itself. It's more just based on the contract. In fact, let's just even go with this, Mick. A kicker from the AFC signed an extension, getting paid $6.4 million a year. He is from the AFC West. I don't care about your opinion on him. To you in the comments. I don't care. We're just going to say kicker. A kicker. He's a kicker. $6.4 million. Evan McPherson, though, is probably sitting there going, okay. So it's just getting in there. Evan McPherson, that's a deal, though, that I think is more questioning at least why it isn't done yet, because he's going to get paid between $6 and $6.4 million, because that's Justin Tucker to kicker. Why isn't it getting done? So I'm just curious as to when that happens. But at least I saw that, and I'm sure Evan McPherson was just like, okay, yeah, that sounds good to me. Sounds very good to me. Joe Burrow was in the news earlier today as well. He is partnering with Kodiak Cake. Yes, it is more than Tucker, Riley. Tucker's making 6, and Kicker is making 6.4. He is, I'm not mentioning his name just because, frankly, I don't want to listen to. You're allowed to have your opinion on him. And that's a collective, either pro, against. We're a straight down the line show, right? Burrow and the Kodiak Cake. That's the journalist in me. They're combining to donate nearly 30 million or 30,000. Sorry, 30 million would be a lot. 30,000 meals to school programs in Athens, Baton Rouge, and Cincinnati. I like this. What they're donating is 9,999 meals to each one of these 3 places. So it's just shy of 30,000 too. So good job, Burrow and Kodiak Cake, which I don't think I know what Kodiak Cake is.
I think it's like a pancake.
Is it the one that's like the high protein one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, with a bear on it, like the brown box. Okay. Good job, Kodiak Cake. Congratulations. Back to practice today, though. It got a little hot. If you've seen the videos floating around, long story short, they need to play somebody else because Ted Karras, he was feeling feisty. I don't know if he didn't eat his Wheaties this morning, but he was feeling feisty. And then on the other side, the linebackers, Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, I think even Von Bell was in there a little bit. They were getting feisty too. I saw at one point BJ Hill had a helmet in his hand, and I loved one of the defensive I think it might have been Darren Simmons in the video I saw, like grab the helmet from him, said, "Oh no, we are not whacking people with helmets. You are not Aaron Donald. We are not doing this. I'm going to take that." But Mick, I ask you, and I think some people are really people have very strong opinions on this. Do you like seeing fights in training camp amongst your team?
I don't think that it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a great thing either. I mean, I wish they did this in the scrimmage against the Bucs. Which, are they doing that tomorrow? Or is that
That's
Friday?
not happening. That's not
happening.
No, they do the Bears and the Colts.
Okay, so no scrimmage. Yeah, so I wish they did that in a scrimmage game against another team. But I mean, I guess it's showing that the defense has some fire in them. Ted Karras is obviously sticking up for his offensive guys, which I think Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt had some questionable hits on some offensive skill players in the practice today. So I don't know. I don't think it's a terrible thing, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent on the whole situation. Fights break out, I think, at pretty much every training camp at some point amongst teams. So I don't think there's any question about the locker room or anything like that. But I think that there is good energy out there today. So
Is it a little bit concerning? And I don't know if concerning is the right word, that it is really two team captains and Logan Wilson and Ted Karras going at it? Or does that make it better?
I don't know. That two team captains, that might be a little odd or a little concerning, I guess. But I don't know. Not,
I just found it interesting because if I probably would have told you, now Ted Karras, I can see him being a little feisty, but Logan Wilson kind of surprised me that he was in the middle of a bunch of these. And I'm not sure if it was just temper, they've been hitting one another for so long, they just need to hit somebody else. But at the same time, he's and these guys are professionals, so it wouldn't shock me if Ted Karras and Logan Wilson went to dinner tonight. And went to Ruby's and had a steak together.
Yeah. What matters more is, as long as you're reconciling, at least after the practice is over and talking to each other in the locker room and making sure everything's good between everybody. And we haven't seen any reports that nothing, things aren't good between some of these players. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about it unless we start hearing some things out of the locker room.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, offense versus defense, and I think Frank's point is like a lot of fans feel. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Now, if it probably happens tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that, that's when it probably starts to go, okay, something's up here. But a little bit of that, not a big deal. Biggest thing with it, and luckily they broke it up quickly, is nobody got hurt. That's where it would have just been really stupid is, somebody steps the wrong way, tears an ACL, or hits somebody with their helmet, or my favorite thing, and I don't think we saw it in this, but I think I saw it in another preseason fight. It might have been at Steelers camp, where somebody decided to try and punch the guy in the helmet. That to me is why?
I don't know, but AJ Green made it look pretty good when he did it.
AJ Green's one of the few people, but he also had the "I'm coming from behind and putting you in a headlock" on Jalen Ramsey.
A chokehold, yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. Phenomenal moment in Bengals history. Phenomenal moment in Bengals history. The Bengals did earlier this week release their first depth chart. I think it's safe to say this means, in fact, it 100% means absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. This is just because technically they play a game this week. They have to. But I don't know how much you want to read into it, but here are a couple of my takeaways from it, Mick. I don't even know if you even read into it at all, but a few of my takeaways. Trent Brown over Mims at right tackle right now. That doesn't surprise me. And I think barring something drastic happening against the Patriots week 1, I'd be surprised if it's not Trent Brown starting at right tackle.
Yeah,
he's the favorite. Now Mims can beat him out, especially with Trent Brown's injury history. So no real surprise there.
Yeah, especially week 1 against the Patriots too. I mean, that's the team that Trent Brown came from. He's probably got good intel on what's on what's on the other side of the ball on the Patriots defense. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be throwing Mims to the Wolves right away.
Trenton Irwin was listed as wide receiver 3. Again, I'm not reading anything into that because I really do believe that wide receiver 3 this year is going to be by committee. I think you're going to see a little Burton. You're going to see a little Yoshivas. You're going to see a little Jones. You're going to see a little Irwin. I think you're going to see a little taste of all of these guys along with Chase and Higgins, especially in those first 6 weeks of the season. And then you'll see one of those guys pop out and probably take the lion's share of the spots. But I think you're really going to see a battle. Burton's probably the favorite to take that, but I'm fascinated by how Dan Pitcher's going to handle that. But right now, at least on this depth chart, does it mean anything? Probably not. Trenton Irwin is wide receiver 3. I don't know if that means anything at all. Probably not.
No.
But that's how it is. Zach Moss was listed over Chase Brown. Another thing, I don't think that means anything at all. I think Zach Moss will probably technically get more snaps early on against the, early on in the season, but later on in the year, it could potentially flip more into Chase Brown's air. The one surprising aspect of it, Drew Sample listed over Mike Gesicki, which just seemed interesting. But then again, I feel like those two don't play the same. They play the same position, but they don't play the same position.
Yeah, they don't really play the same position. I mean, Drew Sample's the more inline blocking tight end. They've already talked about Mike Gesicki taking a big slot receiver kind of role with the offense, so I don't think there's really much to take away from the depth chart listing. There's a good chance Sample does outsnap Mike Gesicki in the regular season because of that, and yeah.
And then the last one that at least stood out really on the defensive side, the only one that at least raised a flag for me was DJ Turner over Dax Hill. Again, not really a surprise there. DJ Turner was a starter last year. Dax Hill is changing positions. That's one that I'm going to be very interested how it looks, in 3 or 4 weeks or in 32 days when the Bengals take on the Patriots with it. But those are really the only takeaways. Did you have any from the depth chart at all?
Where it was Miles Murphy a second stringer?
Yes, behind Sam Hubbard.
Okay.
Which
that makes sense.
Not necessarily a surprise with that at all. The uniform schedule is expected to be released. Traditionally, they release it this week, is how they've done it. Probably will be released before we have our next show. So, Mick, just for fun, the Bengals get 3 alternate jersey uses per season. So that counts white tiger and orange jersey. So they get to use that 3 times a year. Now, again, I think that's stupid. I think they should be allowed to wear however the hell much they want to. Why does it matter? Let them wear whatever they want as long as they're different colors. But right now, Mick, let's just for fun make our predictions for when the Bengals will wear it. So I'm going to first start off, and I think we're both in probably agreement right now. Commanders game will be a white tiger night.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one. I'm going to go another white tiger night, week 10 at the Ravens.
I think that's a good one.
Bengals haven't lost in white tiger. Got to try and get some of that mojo because that could be a massive game there at the Ravens. And this is where I think we're going to differ. I think we're going to have orange against the Eagles.
Actually, that's what I was going to pick too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go orange against maybe the Steelers or something. Or even the Browns with it. But I think those are probably the safest bets is you're going to have white tiger against the Commanders and the Ravens, and you are going to have a orange against the Eagles. The wild card to me, though, is the Cowboys. Because the Cowboys, as I was telling you beforehand, last season, they only wore their navy blue jerseys 4 times at home. So half of their home games. So I don't know whether the Bengals will be one of their navy blue jerseys, or does Monday Night Football make it more likely, less likely? I don't know, but I'd be interested if they go white tiger on that night if it is them wearing their blues.
So, yeah, I think the white tiger is either going to be that Ravens or Cowboys game. Yeah, and all depends on what the Cowboys are wearing that night, I guess.
So I at least think I'm interested always to see, but we are in agreement, orange Eagles.
Yes.
Orange Eagles. All righty. It's preseason time. The preseason opens on Saturday as the Bengals take on the Buccaneers. Oh, wait, one more coming back. I forgot to bring this up to you. Just an interesting question because I was reading an article that brought this up. What color do they wear week 1? Because they have been known to open up the year wearing white at home.
Yeah, but they didn't do that the past 2 years.
No, but the last time they did, they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Do they try and channel some of that inner and wear the white jerseys week 1 against the Patriots?
I mean, I think they could. Also, it's going to be hot. It's going to be like the first week of September. Yeah, yeah. We'll say they wear white that week.
And then something else that I found very interesting that I had no memory of at all is that the last 2 times that they have played in Carolina, they have worn black.
Really?
Yes. I saw that factoid a little bit earlier, which I found interesting. Maybe they'll continue that trend and wear black again in Carolina, and Carolina will wear white. I don't think so. I think that'll probably be just your traditional white and white pants and your traditional orange Bengal helmet, but at least something that makes you go, But I'm interested by that Patriots game. We do know that they're going to be wearing white on Saturday as they take on the Buccaneers at Paycor Stadium. Zach Taylor said Joe Burrow is going to play. The biggest aspect from that is more about going through the process, practicing in the huddle and so on. It's a lot more of not necessarily taking snaps and playing. It's everything else.
Yeah.
Is the reason to why Joe Burrow is playing. Good decision or bad decision?
I don't see anything wrong with it. As long as he doesn't get hurt, which the last time he was out in the preseason was 2021 against the Dolphins in the preseason. Had 3 snaps, got a feel for the game, and that was pretty much it. So yeah, I mean, I don't. I think it'd be good for him to kind of get there and just get the feel of the game a little bit.
What would you set the over/under for snaps for him on Saturday?
7.
I was gonna set it at 10.5.
I go
10.5. 7. Okay, you're saying 7 snaps
or 6.5. Well, actually, we'll go 7.5 snaps.
7.5. See, I think it'll be the over, but I don't think much. Like if he has more than 15 snaps, I'd be surprised.
Yeah,
I think maybe 2 drives, unless the first drive is like a 10-play long one. But if he goes 3 and out, drive 1, it wouldn't shock me if you see a second drive. Like that's what I'm really interested in, how the plan will go with. What we're going to do here is 4 things that we are looking for on Saturday. Call it 4 downs, call it whatever it is. We can have our name kind of changed throughout. But we can just go like 1st down and 10. Mick and I are each going to go with something. I don't necessarily have this in an order as far as what I am like most looking forward to, second most, third most, fourth most. I don't know if you do or not.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's more of just a collective 4 things, but I'll let you go first, Mick. 1st down and 10. What is the thing you're looking forward to the most when the Bengals take on the Buccaneers on Saturday?
So the thing I'm looking forward to the most is seeing Jermaine Burton in action, in some preseason action against the Bucs. Jermaine Burton was just an absolutely explosive wide receiver last year at Alabama, receiving grade of 85. He was in the 84th percentile of college wide receivers. These yards per route ran, 3.12 yards per route ran. That was in the 90th percentile. Average depth of target, 20.6 yards. That was number 1 in college football. So 100 percentile. He's just been, everything that's came out of camp, it seems to be lighting it up over there. He seems to be building really good rapport with Joe Burrow. So it'd just be really cool to see him go out there and just have a killer game against the Bucs.
Sorry, I'm getting here. The Bengals just tweeted just a few minutes ago that they will be announcing the White Tiger game at 10 Eastern tomorrow morning.
Nice.
So that's something. Sorry to change the subject there, but so at 10 a.m. tomorrow on 10 a.m. on Thursday morning, the Bengals will be announcing. I mean, I'd say 98% chance it's Commanders.
Yeah,
I think there's
break news. You broke news on the podcast here.
I guess
that's good timing.
Technically, I guess I did, but they do it. I agree with Frank. What Frank said, and I think that's a really good one. It's not on my list of the top 4, but Burton. I'm interested to see when we're having this conversation in 1 year. What are we saying about Jermaine Burton? I'm interested in that because I think we could be saying, how the hell did we get him in the 3rd round?
Yeah, top 20 wide receiver.
Yes, like we could be legitimately having this, and we could pretty much say, T. Higgins, we're okay. Like we're going to be okay because we got Jermaine Burton. For me, my 1st down and 10. I'm fascinated by the new kickoff rule. I know that's not necessarily something Bengals related that I'm looking forward to, but it's preseason. How much can you really look at? I just want to see, because I saw a little bit of it in the Hall of Fame game last week, which was the Bears and I don't even remember who the Bears played.
Texans.
Thank you. And I like that it got canceled after the 3rd quarter. But literally the only play I watched from that game was I watched one of the kickoffs. And I know we both have the mentality of we are open to what is the change. If you don't know, they are adopting the kickoff rules similar to what the UFL, that's what they're calling it now, right?
Yeah.
It's the UFL. Does to pretty much where it is you have the 2 teams are going to line up like almost a typical play. The kicker is all alone back at his normal spot. He's going to kick it into a zone, which is inside the 20-yard line. There'll be 2 returners back there. The players cannot move until the returner catches it. and then it's like a typical play goes along. That's the most basic term of it. In the UFL, there were more exciting returns. Every play pretty much has to be returned unless it's kicked into the end zone. And if it's kicked into the end zone, I think the ball goes to the 40. I don't think there's a touchback. I think it goes automatically to the 40 if it's in the end zone. I'm just fascinated by how this is going to work. So for me, my first down and 10 is the new kickoff rule.
Yeah, and these teams are itching to get as many reps in the kickoff as they can before the regular season starts.
I'm really interested with that too. Is you better believe there are a couple of these teams that have thought, what if we do this with this? And what is this? I don't know. But some sort of trick or blocking scheme or something. I mean, do you test it? Like, do you put that on film? Like, that's why I'm just really interested for how this kickoff rule, because I think it was Paul Dehner Jr. that said it on his podcast a couple of weeks ago that this rule is going to win games in the first couple of weeks for whichever team figures it out first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially some of those toss-up games. And it could just be that, a 40-yard return. It's a 40-yard return instead of one that'll be a 10-yard return. And it'll be really interesting. What's second down for you?
Ooh, second down. We'll go with seeing Myles Murphy in action. So last year, we didn't see a great or even really a good season out of Myles Murphy, but there were some bright spots in this game that give you some hope that he could build on last year and have a really good rookie season or second season. And it'd be just really interesting to see how he plays in the preseason here if we see a significant improvement in his game, which I think there's a good chance we do. Last year, Myles Murphy was in the 44th percentile, 64.3 pass rush grade. Pass rush win rate was 13%. He's in the 66th percentile. So that was what's the word I'm looking for? That gives me some optimism that he can build off of that from last year. Run grade. Hopefully he improves a lot in that, and hopefully we see some improvement from him in this department on Saturday. 16th percentile, 50.3 grade. Run stop grade, 13th percentile, 4.1%. Run stop rate. So, I'm hoping we kind of see Myles Murphy take another leap forward, especially in the regular season, but hopefully starting Saturday against the Bucs.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. As far as Myles Murphy, he's going to be somebody that I'm definitely keeping an eye on. I'm going similar to your first down for my second down. I'm not looking at Jermaine Burton. I'm interested in, we've heard a lot about Andre Yoshivas and heard a lot about Charlie Jones, especially Yoshi, about, he apparently went to this wide receiver coach and was looking really good. You're going to see a lot of those guys get a ton of snaps in Yoshi and Jones. I'm fascinated by how different they look, how much improved they look. What's there? Because these guys are playing for snaps right now. They've made the team. But the big players right now in the preseason, they could play themselves into being wide receiver 3. It's not like Jermaine Burton's got that spot locked up at all. If Andre Yoshivas comes out and has an unbelievable camp, he could sneak his way in there. Or same thing with Charlie Jones. So I'm interested in those two for my second down. What are you going third down?
Third down. So we'll go with cornerback 2 battle between Dax Hill and DJ Turner. I would imagine both of them are going to get a good amount of snaps on Saturday, considering that's probably the biggest position battle on the team now. And I mean, we've mentioned this on the podcast before. We didn't see good play at all from Dax Hill or DJ Turner in 2023. Coverage grade, DJ Turner in the 10th percentile at a 48 grade. Dax Hill was even worse, 5th percentile with a 43 coverage grade. Passer rating allowed, 112 allowed by DJ Turner, which was in the 19th percentile. Dax Hill, 115 in the 16th percentile. And then actually the forced incompletion rate, which is something that's really intriguing from Dax Hill, which I think that might translate to a better transition to corner in 2024, was Dax Hill at a 16% forced incompletion rate, which was in the 77th percentile, and DJ Turner wasn't terrible in that department either. 49th percentile at 11%. So it's going to be interesting to see, if there's any progress in that battle between those two guys in who ends up getting the number 2 cornerback spot.
Because I'm really interested to see how much Cam Taylor Britt plays, or if they literally just. I mean, you're probably going to see Britt play, maybe 2 series, maybe 3,
Yeah.
And then I'm interested that they're probably just going to have Dax Hill and DJ Turner go as the other outside corners. And let's just see what you got, and whoever plays the most and best and so on. That's a good one. Mine's very similar for my third down is the defensive draft picks. Guys like Josh Newton, guys like Dejon Anthony. We talked about Cedric Johnson, McKinley Jackson, even though he might not play since he's day-to-day. You never know if the Bengals just say, hey, you're too important to really get these snaps. We'll see in Chicago, in a week and a half. But those defensive draft picks I'm really interested in because I think each one of them can play. The Bengals aren't necessarily expecting any of them to play big roles, but each of those guys can play key roles, I think, on this team. Like McKinley Jackson. He could be huge. Chris Jenkins, huge on that defensive line. He's probably got the biggest role out of those. Josh Newton, though. Maybe he comes out there and he's cornerback too.
Yeah, you just stole the words right out of my mouth. I mean, that he's definitely not out of the race for that, and I think he's had a pretty good camp up until this point, where I think it is kind of a 3-man battle potentially. So yeah, I think that Josh Newton's another one that I think would be a very interesting watch on Saturday.
And I know Dejon Anthony, he's had a couple of picks in camp as well, which is interesting to go with that too. So I think that for me is my third down, is those defensive draft picks and how they make a name for themselves. I mean, you think about defensive draft pick, I guess was it last year or 2 years ago that we learned the name Tyson Anderson?
Last year.
Was it last year?
Yep.
Against the Packers. Where he had, was it 2 interceptions and a pick 6, or were they both pick 6s?
No, 2 interceptions and a pick 6.
And a pick 6. But and I love those guys like that because, I mean, listen, is Tyson Anderson going to be a long-time Bengal? Who knows?
Probably not.
Probably not. But we'll all remember the Tyson Anderson moments in preseason. Yeah. So that's my question is who's going to be this year's Tyson Anderson is coming out? And maybe it's Tyson Anderson. Maybe Tyson Anderson is just the world's greatest preseason football player. And he's going to come out there and he's going to look like Kyle Hamilton or Antoine Winfield or something on Saturday against the Bucs. What's fourth down?
Fourth down, and I slammed this draft pick, but just looking more into the numbers, I don't know why I did that because I think that there's a lot to like about this guy, and just came back from his back injury in 2023. That is watching tight end Eric All in action against the Bucs on Saturday. Eric All, 76 receiving grade last year with Iowa, 88th percentile. Yards per route ran, 2.62 yards per route ran. That's in the 98th percentile. His average depth of target wasn't terrible either. 8.7 yards was his average depth of target. That was in the 71st percentile. So the numbers are there for Eric All. He's coming from what I think, and I think you would agree in this, is tight end university over at Iowa, where they've had tight ends come out like George Kittle, like Noah Fant, like TJ Hawkinson. So yeah, I think that there's a lot to like about Eric All, and hopefully we get to see a lot of him in action on Saturday.
That tight end battle is something I probably should have put on there because I mean, we're going to talk a lot about it over these next couple of weeks because McLaughlin, do the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, 2 of these tight ends are mainstay. I mean, 3 of them with Drew Sample, but 2 of them are mainstays for the next 4 seasons potentially. So hopefully, just to see them, kind of flourish in preseason, get some reps. I think that's going to be an interesting position to watch.
Because again, I don't know who gets cut.
If I had to guess, it's Tanner Hudson.
And it is just, and you're like, and you gave your point a couple of weeks ago. You're not wrong. But at the same time, it's hard to cut a guy that played so well last year. I mean, it is, if we're being honest, it's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
It's a great problem to have. You're not deciding between Mitchell Wilcox and I'm trying to think of some other random Bengals tight end that they've had over the past couple of
Devin
years.
Asiasi.
There you go. Devin Asiasi is not making this Bengals team. Or Jordan Franks.
Yeah.
Just, I love, we could probably sit here for the next week and name random Bengals tight ends. My last one, and you could probably guess because I've talked about it a lot of these last couple of weeks. Hopefully we never see them, but I think you're going to see them even if it's a situation where in a normal game they would go for it, the punters.
Yeah.
If anything else, I'm just interested in how the snap counts go. Is it 50-50? Who's the holder? In these, is it going to just every other one? They're going to rotate on it. Does Robbins get the majority of it? Does that say what it is? Does Reckow get the majority of it? Now, majority of snaps could mean nothing. It could mean that Darren Simmons has seen enough from the other person and he wants to give the other guy a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could mean that guy's winning the battle and he's got a chance to go win it right now by having a big camp. But I'm just really interested for this punting battle because I think it could go either way.
Yeah.
With Robbins and Reckow. I know that I think it was Jay Morrison said on the Growler, it was last week, he said that the ball just comes off of Reckow's leg different. He said the sound, it just sounds different. And I think he followed it up with saying that he realizes that sound is not a measurable stat. Sound means absolutely nothing. But it doesn't not mean nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I don't know. I don't want to put too much stock in the sound. I mean, I guess not to give you
decibel
a baseball
level. Is that not on PFF?
Not to give you a baseball reference, but the sound of whenever in the slim chances that Joey Gallo gets a hold of a ball and hits it for a dinger, that sounds really good, but he also strikes out at an alarmingly high rate. So I don't know. I'm not gonna put too much stock into that, I guess.
I think we need to get PFF to start measuring decibel level for punters.
Yeah.
Which punter has the highest decibel level on his
They've got the
contact?
capacity to do it.
Oh, I guarantee it. If there's one place that could do it, it is that. So those are our 4 downs. I'm not sure if this is something that we'll do throughout the season or not. And maybe, do you have a 5th down? No. Are we in Kansas City?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think as a whole, though, biggest thing is that the results doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they win. It doesn't matter if they lose. My number one thing that I want to see is that nobody gets hurt on either side. I have not done any looking into because this is typically where we dive into, here's what the Bucs you have, here's their offense, here's their defense, who are the guys that you need to look for? There's no point in us even doing that. And it leads me into this question for you because I'm fascinated by this. And I really wish that we could have like Zach Taylor on the show and I could ask him this. Do you think they watch film on the Bucs? Like for one, what do they watch film on? Because there's nothing to watch as far as last year, but they have a new offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think they watch film or do you think it's all about them?
I think it's all about them. I think the preseason is for the team to get their communication down on both sides of the ball, to get a feel for the game itself, for all of the I already said communications, but I guess with the coaching staff on the sidelines as well, maybe working out some plays that are maybe works in progress right now to see what can be tweaked on each play to make it more efficient in the regular season. So no, I don't think if they watch any film, I don't think it's a lot of it.
Yeah, and I disagree with that because at the same time too is, how much Baker Mayfield are we going to see? Probably not a lot. Is the guy from Kyle Trask, is he their backup? I couldn't even tell you.
I will.
I'm going to look this up. I've got it Googling here.
Oh,
or do you have it up?
Yeah. We'll see who beats it. beats the
Okay,
other two.
we're racing here. I'm looking at the depth chart.
It is Kyle Trask.
Kyle Trask. John Wolford, Rams legend, right? Is their third string.
He might win that battle. He might win that battle between Wolford and
then
Trask.
Zach. Don't forget about Zach Annickstad, their fourth string guy. Big Zach Annickstad fan.
Who the hell is that?
He's the pride of Illinois State.
Oh, Redbirds. Isn't that where Mark went?
I think so. Mark, I don't know if you're watching. I saw you were in a little bit earlier, but can you give us a scouting report on good old Zach Annickstad? I mean, listen, that fourth quarter could come down to him coming in.
It could.
How much Jake Browning do you want to see?
I think. Well, I mean, I'm down to see however much Jake Browning I can get. I would assume that we'll probably see at least two quarters.
Let's say first quarter is Burrow. Let's just say that, just for talk of this conversation. How are you splitting it up amongst the other three then for the remaining 3 quarters?
I'll give 2 quarters to Browning, and I'll give 1 quarter to Logan Woodside.
What about Rocky Lombardi?
He'll play against the Colts.
Oh, come on. We want Rocky Lombardi. You don't want Rocky Lombardi to lead the comeback drive, throwing dots to Cole Burgess and Cedric Jackson, and I'm trying to name the other.
Kwame Lassiter.
Kendrick Pryor.
Oh, yeah, Kendrick Pryor's back.
He is back, yeah, because he got picked up late last season. Rocky Lombardi throwing dots down the field, going up against Zach Annickstad for the Bucks. I don't know.
That's an Illinois rivalry right there. It's Northern Illinois.
Oh, it is. Northern Illinois State.
Illinois State.
Yeah, I don't know if that is. I didn't realize, too, they have former UK running back Ramon Jefferson on there. Bucky Irving, forgot that they got him. He was the guy that we talked about.
We didn't even talk about Bucks players that we're going to see.
No. I mean, we just did. We talked a lot about Zach Annickstad.
Yeah.
So now here's the thing. Our podcast listeners are going to be the only fans at Paycor Stadium that when Zach Annickstad comes into the game, they're going to know.
Who's
Illinois State. Illinois State. They're going to know that. Some other guys that I'm looking at here, too, for them. Sterling Shepard. Remember him? He's a wide receiver.
And he's gotten the crap end of the stick in his NFL career. I mean, I remember him being pretty darn good.
Jalen
McMillan, we're going to see some of him. Graham Barton. That's somebody I was high on the offensive line in the draft.
Were you the big fan of Jalen McMillan, or was that Tommy?
I think that was what's his name? Schubert.
Was it Schubert? Okay. Yes, you're right. It was Schubert. That was a big Jalen McMillan fan. Graham Barton. Yeah, he was a guy. He's the guy from. Is he the guy from Duke?
Yes,
that's right. I'm sure you'll see a lot of him too.
Year 2 of the toothless wonder, Cody Mock from North Dakota State.
I mean, his boy Cordell Volson. I bet they'll do a jersey swap after the game, probably.
They might. There's a good chance they do. Chris Braswell, edge rusher out of Alabama, probably going to get some snaps there. I think it'd be a good time.
Look at here, their third string defensive lineman, Judge Culpepper. Okay, I was looking. Is Judge Culpepper related to Dante Culpepper? I clicked on his face. No, I don't think he is. I don't know if you can click on his face, Mick, but I don't think he is.
Let's see.
I don't think he's related to Dante Culpepper.
Yeah, this man does not look related.
No, it's the mustache.
He's got a mustache, though.
I've never heard of Judge Culpepper in my life.
Randy Gregory's their third string edge rusher.
It's a pretty good third string guy.
Is that the right Randy? Yeah, it is.
He's not even listed on mine here. That's interesting.
Well, it's on Our Lads. He's red, and what does it say next to it? DNR.
Do not resuscitate.
Not resuscitate. Okay. Randy Gregory's got a DNR. HIPAA violation.
I was gonna say I didn't realize that they were going to do this. I do realize too here that Jose Ramirez
Oh,
from
no.
the Cleveland Guardians is one of their outside linebackers, apparently.
I don't know why they're in playoff position right now. Here's an interesting name signing from Houston, Mister. I'm gonna jump off sides on field goals. Tavier Thomas. You remember that whole thing?
Yes,
from last year against the Texans.
That's right. Yep. That's why I love the preseason. And apparently, too, there's a defensive lineman by the name of Lawal Ugawak.
That's a cool name.
He's from TCU, but I agree with Riley. Judge Culpepper is a Hall of Fame defensive tackle name. Like, that's elite.
It's a good name. That's like a college football recruit, like a CPU generated name, Judge Culpepper.
But here's the thing. If Dante Culpepper wasn't a thing and you think of his name, if you would think of a guy the name Judge Culpepper and you'd want to say, what does he look like? That's what he looks like. Like looking at his picture. Like, mustache, burly. It's just kind of interesting. You know what we do have to make right here, Mick, though, as we wrap up our show for the week?
What? Prediction?
Prediction.
Oh,
we have to make our prediction for the Bengals taking on the Buccaneers on Saturday at Paycor Stadium. Ray Maualuga will be the ruler of the jungle. Is there a spread?
Yeah, there's a spread and a line.
Okay, let me see. Okay, have you looked at it yet?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to guess. I've not looked at this. Bengals 3.5?
4 on ESPN bets.
Okay. So that's close. What's the over-under, like 34?
38.5.
Okay. Do the Bengals win?
Yeah, I'll go with the yes.
I'm going to say no. They lose. And it's a preseason game, so the score has got to be obscure. Like, there's no preseason game that's 24-21. Like, it's always some just weird score. I'm going to say Bucks win 19-15. No, 19-13. Bucks win.
All right, I'm going to go Bengals win 20-16.
Okay.
Or Bengals win 20-16.
20-16. Rocky Lombardi is going to have a chance to lead them down the field, and he's going to throw a pick on the last drive, and he's going to be intercepted by none other than Judge Culpepper, the defensive lineman. He's going to make a name of him, or he's going to have a forced fumble. We'll say that. Judge Culpepper is going to make the play that is going to win the game for the Bucks, because I just learned his name. And Zach Annickstad is not going to play.
Probably not.
We'll be back next week. There might be some changes as far as to when we go live. I know Mick and I have to talk about that, so make sure you stay tuned into our social media channels for that. Bengals play the Bucks coming up. Frank says Bengals 20, Tampa 10. It's anyone's guess. No one really knows with it. But until next week, do you have anything else that you want to get off your chest?
No. If you're going to the game, stay safe. Hope you have a good time. We unfortunately will not be at the game. I've got a fantasy draft. Sam's busy.
Yeah,
Sam's busy.
I've got a lot going on with work, so I can't make it. So I hate it because they've now come up with this for the first time. They have this streak thing where if we would go to all 10 games, we get like pro shop money. And we're going to lose out one. We're going to lose out one game in. We'll be at all the regular season games.
How do they know that we show up if we sell our tickets?
See, that's what I'm interested in. But I don't know.
Did we get any? Takers?
Not yet. But I lowered it this morning, so I'm just going to keep on lowering it, and maybe we'll get $3 for them. Until next week, though, Mick, Houday.
Thanks for watching.